Hello, and welcome to the Cory Network. We have several real estate industry-focused podcast shows showcasing around top leaders, company cultures, and experts serving all verticals of real estate. First up, we have Meet Your Next Best Hire, a podcast featuring and highlighting top industry real estate leaders looking to land their next venture in the job marketplace. And second, we have Company Culture Ambassadors Show, a podcast featuring top leading brands and organizations sharing their company culture, values through their voice to attract top talent to join their teams. And finally, Coffee Convos with Kelsi Cory, a podcast featuring real estate industry experts adding value through their insights, expertise, and backstories to our community. I'm Kelsi Cory, your host. With over a decade of real estate executive search and recruiting experience and the founder of Cory Executive Recruiting and Leaders on Deck, I've had the unique privilege of partnering with top real estate firms to recruit and place high-level leaders across the country. In these podcasts, we will have the amazing opportunity to hear top real estate industry leaders and organizations sharing their career stories, leadership and management style, and ultimately what they're known for in their craft and values that they're driven by. I can't wait to dive in and connect you with the best talent in the marketplace with top industry leading brands and building high performing teams. Let's dive in together. Hey everybody, welcome to the show, Coffee Convos with your host, Kelsi Cory. Today, I am so excited to share space with a very special guest and also a dear friend and somebody that we've known each other for years now throughout the industry, Suzanne Hopson. She is the founder and CEO of Here2Elevate. And through our conversation today, I can't wait to kind of dive in more about what was her inspiration of Here2Elevate and what is her backstory, right? Like, how did she get into the industry of multifamily, residential real estate, and then make that transition over to Here2Elevate and who she serves? So, Suzanne, thank you so much again for creating space with us, and I'm so glad to have you on the show today.
Oh, Kelsi, thank you. I have been really excited to bring my coffee and my convo to this space and just really appreciate it. Excited about what you're doing and looking forward to the conversation today so we can share. It's good.
Yes. You know, what's so funny is that I had a large matcha latte and I already drank it all. So I was like, I should have saved it. But I'm so glad you brought yours.
I did. I'll drink this for the both of us. It's fine. Yeah. We don't want you to have two in one day.
Yeah, no, exactly. Okay, excellent. So I would love, and I know our audience would love to hear it as well. Can you kind of walk us back? How did you get into the industry of real estate? How did you fall into this sector? And a little backstory of like, what made you then transition over to Here2Elevate and a little bit more color into that? Because I would love to hear your story. And I'm sure our audience would love to have a little bit more of a backstory as well that you could share with us.
Yes. Well, I love to tell the story. It's fun now to look back. Some parts of the journey were harder than others, but when I look back at what I've considered a lucky fall into our industry, I look back with pride and with a lot of very fond memories. And so let us go back. I started in the industry over 30 years ago at a student property in Lansing, Michigan. It was very large. I had no idea I was cutting my teeth on such a difficult project.
Yes.
Now I have a huge appreciation for student housing and what they do and how different it is from the other types of housing that we serve. And I had the opportunity to start as what they called back then a phone girl. And some of the audience has heard this story. I've talked about it in my training as well for sales folks. But it was okay back then to actually say that. It's not okay now.
Yeah.
But to me, I didn't care. I got to get into this really cool business that I had no idea existed. And I could see the potential of learning and being able to really get out of fast food because
Yeah.
that's where I was with 3 jobs. So, I had a great mentor. I'm still in touch with her to this day. I won't name her, but she uh, actually went into business for herself and is very, very successful in the Lansing area. And I think about her often because she was the first person to open doors for me, which has followed a theme throughout my career and something that I feel very strongly about paying forward. But anyway, I started out there and I proceeded to work for some really great companies, all, pretty much mid-size. I worked for McKinley, I worked for Concord, I worked for Marquette twice. And I just had the opportunity to really stretch and grow in the different positions that are of our industry. Again, had great mentors. I got to deal and work right side by side with owners
Right.
who taught me everything that they knew, from marketing to operations to training, really the people development part. I felt like I was in college for at least 15 years, my first 15
I like
years in
that.
multifamily.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And I always had like this 5-year time span. And
Hmm.
when I look back and I measure it, I'd work places between 5 and 6 years, and then I'd get everything the way I wanted it, and I'd become bored, and I'd have to go and do something else at another company. And I didn't really realize what that was. I didn't know why I couldn't find a seat that I really felt comfortable in. There was always something that I wasn't great at in the seat that I was in. And so I just kept trying to move around in the different areas from marketing to training to ops, marketing, training, ops. I did take a quick stint and worked, I say quick, I worked for Grace Hill for 6 years, which really shifted, yeah, it really shifted my way of thinking about learning
Hmm.
and also about the need to understand from a global perspective that there are many ways to
Right.
do things. And so, as an account manager, I had 135 clients and I had the opportunity to peek in and see how they ran their businesses
Right.
and how differently they ran their businesses.
Right.
And so I really looked at that opportunity as a learning experience that changed and shifted the way I looked at our business. But there was also another really important thing that I got to be a part of, and that was the culture of Grace Hill. Amazing organization, working with Joe Bailey, working with Kara Rice, working with Jolene Brannigan, and many others that I still am very close to this day. That also taught me something really important about the type of people that I wanted to work with moving forward, sort of an intolerance of anything else.
Hmm.
Once you get the really good stuff, you
Yes.
can't go back,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah,
Savor
they
it.
changed, yeah, they gave me the best and that really set a bar for culture in general.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I had a child during that time. I call it my sabbatical. It's probably one of the
Yes.
easier jobs that I've ever done. And now Ava's 11. And during that time when she was growing up, we had a lot of shifts in our family and, things happen.
Mhm.
And I decided I was going to get back onto the property management side. There was a lot going on. This was just before COVID. And I saw some real opportunity to jump back in. Interestingly enough, Kelsey, the other thing that happened during that time was I was out of the operations for 6 years and
Yeah.
technology had just, gone through the roof.
Right.
And I felt very unprepared to
Mhm.
jump back in and wasn't quite sure at what level I should, venture back. And so
Mhm.
I started as a regional manager and I did that for a couple of years before I went to TriCap Residential Group out of Chicago and that was really eye opening. I had forgotten what it was
Yeah.
like to be a regional manager. And I have now put that role on a pedestal, if you will. I still have
Right.
sales on a pedestal, but
Yeah.
really that regional and emerging leader role, I think, has been just a critical role for my business now to pay attention to. And I think it's a really it's a tough job. It's a
Mhm.
tough job. And the training that's required to be able to get really good in that role has been a focus of mine. But anyway, I jumped in to a director of ops role We had about 5,000 units at the time, over 7 states, and it was a growing and scaling company. So I started there, moved into, marketing, EVP of marketing, and then had the opportunity to do president of operations and then move into a president role of the company. And that was another big growth period for me. I had the
Yeah.
opportunity, doors opened for me to join a group, a Vistage group out of Chicago. And
Yep.
many of those guys were still my buds. And that was another life lesson. While I got a lot out of that experience, and I think I might have told you the story. When I walked in one day, there was 18 people around these tables, and I was the only woman.
Mm.
And it really stuck out to me. I
Mm.
don't know why. I didn't notice it before, but it was about the conversation, what was being talked about. I was one of the guys,
Mhm.
and some of the things that were said or whatever, it was all very good, and the sharing has always been amazing. But I was like, there's something missing here. There's something missing. There's not people like me at the table.
Mhm.
And so that stuck with me. And so I had the opportunity to become a chair at one point. But before that happened, I realized that I had reached the top of
Right.
uh, this industry and I still wanted more. I still wanted to make a difference. And I began to think about some of the really great training that I had experienced through business operating systems like EOS and thought, wow, what if we could take that and really multiply that in other businesses in multifamily so that they could benefit from some of those structures to businesses and to people and to execution and really address accountability.
Mhm.
And that's where the dream started. Um, and that's really where the dream of Here to Elevate came from. Was wanting to make an impact with
Yeah.
several businesses at the same time, and also to continue to open doors for women and others
Mhm.
to give them a place to be able to make a difference too.
Now, what year was that, whenever you had kind of thought through, okay, this is really the direction I want to go? Because I can't recall the timeline of that.
Yeah, 2023. So
Okay.
just a couple of years ago. Yeah, we're up
Okay, yeah.
coming up on our second anniversary in July.
Okay. Oh, good. Congrats. Oh, that's
Thank
huge.
you. Yeah.
Yes. And I could see the passion, like you're talking about, just you have touched a lot of different aspects of the business, like you said. And oftentimes, when we're visionaries and we really have that capacity and that hunger and the drive, it doesn't really matter what seat you're in. It's like you know that you're capable of so much more. And then also leading the people along the way, which is something that just knowing you through the years is something you're so talented and gifted at. And I love the fact that you took that leap of faith into like the entrepreneurial journey and saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to settle. I'm not going to just be, I'm just going to sit in this seat. There's more opportunity for you. And I think many of us, right, can be afraid of like, what does it look like outside of kind of some comfortability? But you were always constantly being challenged in so many different aspects of all the roles that you played. And I love the fact that you have this huge hunger and appetite to help so many more businesses, different industry leaders. And with Here to Elevate, congrats again in July, 2 years. It just seems like it's been around longer. So I think sometimes I'm like, wow, that is so amazing to just know the impact that you've already been making inside this space. Can you share with us a little bit more context into, for the folks that may not be familiar with Here to Elevate, really, what do you guys specialize in? What's your craft and different areas that you serve and who you serve? I would love for us to dive into that.
Absolutely, and I love talking about it, so
Yeah.
thanks, Kelsey. This is yeah,
Sure.
I'm getting a lot out of this, really, it's so much fun. So we primarily help companies inside multifamily and outside of multifamily in the small to medium-sized businesses that are trying to grow and scale. And they typically have the beginnings of a leadership team. They're not fully developed. They're a little bit beyond startup, although we are talking to startups.
Sure.
And they need that injection of expertise that perhaps they can't afford on a full-time basis. And so we do this with three different services that we provide. One service is our fractional service, and fractional is a term that can mean interim, it can mean part-time, it can mean a lot of things, and people
Sure.
are desperately trying to, I think, define what fractional means. But for Here to Elevate, fractional means we come in as a contract employee and we sit in a seat and we work alongside the team. We may have specific accountabilities, direct reports, but we're there on the regular working in the business with the team. So
Right.
that's one type of service that we provide. Another type of service that we provide is really pure consultancy. So, because of the nature and depth of expertise on the bench, so from marketing to learning and development to construction to really all levels of multifamily and beyond, we have been able to really sit in those seats, but also do project management,
Right.
specific projects that have a very clear, begin date and end date and scope, and may not be a C-suite position, but a necessary consultancy that a company is looking to have. And that could be a tech stack analysis in terms of the type of work. It could be a training, a workshop. It could be coaching. So that has a really wide range of possibilities in terms of the consultancy piece. The third piece is really addressing the structure of companies and how they operate in the world,
Right.
and where they might have a need for not fractional help, but coaching and advising, strategic planning, financial forensic analysis,
Mhm.
all the things that are very holistic and take the company picture as a whole
Right.
and provide, opportunity for us to come in and assist and help from that level. And that's through our Boss Up product, which is a business operating system. It's powered by 90IO, which is the technology that we utilize for this structure. And it's nothing new, Kelsi. I think we know that we've talked about it before. Business operating systems are not new. I think what's really cool about what we're doing with this one is really approaching it from a holistic standpoint. It's
Right.
very customizable, and we have a bench full of people that we can inject into the business for
Mhm.
all of these different functions at any time. So our clients are getting the full Monty. They're getting it all
Yes.
when they engage with us for that type of service.
And I love that you offer three different services. I think it's really cool, just talking about the fractional component as well with the other two that you offer is so important because, right, not every organization has the bandwidth, has the capital, has the capacity, or even the direction to bring on four full-time employees. And
Yeah.
oftentimes that's kind of where the mishap can happen is if someone is not guided in their leadership or they just don't know what they don't know, and they can spend all this capital and go into large amounts of debt, hiring the wrong people in the wrong seats. And maybe that's not what they needed. Maybe that wasn't the solution during that time. It's amazing that you provide a service where it's like, hey, let's save you money. Let's come in and help like guide and direct and, like you said, interject and figure out what do you need. So maybe you do need a full-time person at some point or maybe you don't, and I think that's where fractional has become such a huge advantage that companies, all walks of life, whether it's multifamily, any real estate ecosystem, can really leverage your type of expertise inside the market and your teams because I think that that is such a crucial and critical need, especially when you're not trying to, break the bank and then you bring on people that in a year you look up and you're like, wow, we ran out of work. We don't have any more projects for this person to work on. And so I think what you're doing is a huge value add. I think it makes significant impact. I probably answered the question already, in my opinion, but I would love to hear from you. What was the vision or the intentionality behind this? Like, where did you say when you made that transition to say, okay, I want to create Here2Elevate, that you saw this need? Can you walk us through a little bit about that? Like, where you kind of said, I think there's a problem out there and this is how we're going to solve for this solution.
Yeah, it's almost the perfect storm. I look at it in that way. There have been a lot of opportunities that have been popping up where, people have not perhaps looked at them as opportunities, but real challenges for businesses over the last, several years since COVID. And they, in real estate especially, and the movement of real estate, the ability to acquire has been very difficult. There have been a lot of shifts with technology and AI and all of the things. And there was, to me, this isn't new in other industries. CFOs have worked fractionally for
Right,
years,
right.
very effectively. And so with gig work, really increasing, and I'll give you a little fact on the fractional role, it has increased 300% in the last year and a half.
I believe it. I truly
It's
believe it.
people are wanting to work that way. And
Hmm.
so from many different angles, opportunities to help clients, but also, wow, what a great way to work. You can
Right.
work on your own schedule. You don't necessarily have to work 40 hours if you don't want to. So there's this whole thing that's been happening outside of multifamily that I thought, wow, if
Right.
we could just create something in the space and also service outside of multifamily, because quite frankly, we all have a lot of the same
Yeah.
problems,
Right.
right? Not
We
clear
do.
vision, wrong people in the seats, and then also the failure to execute. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, that's really what I saw was an opportunity. I learned from other companies that are doing this and really just thought, how can I apply that same methodology in multifamily?
Yes, no, I love it. And I mean, back to what you said, it is wild to think 300%, but the last 18 months, yes. I mean, a lot of the conversations, I think people are at this point now, like you said, I think it's existed in a lot of different industries, but real estate, multifamily, right? Sometimes you're a little bit last to adopt some of these
Yeah.
creative solutions out there. And it really is an interesting when you look at executive leadership, especially when folks are kind of, I would say maybe they've got, they're kind of at the last leg of their retirement, right? They're like,
Mhm.
we don't want to work for an organization for the next 10 plus years. They really want to roll up their sleeves, apply all the things that they've learned throughout that time, and work with different organizations at different points throughout that year and serve at literally a fraction of that time. And it has become a huge demand. It has become a different exit plan, I would say, for people that are looking kind of futuristic where they want to go. I was talking to a chief technology officer. They make at least over half a million in salary. And honestly, from what our conversation led to, he's like, but the reality is I don't need to be full-time employee for the next 3 to 5 years because there's not necessarily the scope of work or the necessary need, right? And that's where companies can find themselves saying, what are we going to do now with all this overhead? And
Yeah,
right.
that's real.
And,
Mhm.
what are we going to do to keep this person truly embedded in the business if the business already was solved with literally a fraction of that person's expertise? And so, I think between just the people me and you connect with and so forth, I think there's a huge need and value of what you guys are delivering out there. And I love the fact that you kind of shared, again, your backstory and all the years of experience that you bring forward to the table, and then really following your passion. And like I said, it's so cool to know it's been 2 years in July, even though it feels like a lot longer. And just the impact that you guys are making at Here2Elevate and the different services that you guys are providing, I think it's absolutely incredible, and I can't wait to see and support you guys along the way. And I think it's just remarkable to see, how you guys are really adding that value, like you said, through accountability, through Boss Up, through EOS, through all the systems and platforms that you've been able to leverage throughout your career. And lastly, it's like, who would be a good target audience? I know you briefly touched on that, but just for anybody who might be watching this, any, decision makers that are watching this, like, can you share with us who would be an ideal fit, and when is the ideal time to maybe bring in somebody with your type of expertise for them to consider?
Yeah, I love it. And this has really evolved, I think, in why we've had to develop services, because there has been a different need depending, well,
Right.
on the client, right? And by the way, our how we are working together is really also important to me, Kelsi. I think that naturally our interest in people and making sure that they find the right work, I'm excited about what we're
Yes.
going to be able to do together. Yeah, so the client that needs the assistance, and when is that the perfect time? Typically, there's some pain
Mhm.
occurring that is excruciating at some level of the organization. And usually at the top, that's where a lot of the change happens. There is a need to make that change happen quickly. And so, what I have found is that if you are not meeting your KPIs on a regular basis, if you are finding that a few people are doing all of the work, if you are finding that you have high turnover
Mhm.
and general overall negative sentiment from your teams on how they feel about your culture and your company. If you are putting out there where you want to take your company and no one gets it, like if I
Mhm.
went on to your properties and said, "What's the vision for your company?" and would I be able to hear that vision back? So lack of clarity, and really the biggest pain point really is just not getting the results. It's usually when I get the phone call, like, we really don't know what's going on here. We have an inkling that it's in this area of the business. And, then we come in and we do our due diligence. We take, a certain number of hours to really dig in and peel back the layers of the onion so that we can come back with a really good solution. That's really important and worth noting, because I think a lot of times we apply solutions when we're not quite sure what the issue is. You mentioned it
Mhm.
earlier.
Mhm.
The best business owners sometimes can't see their blind spots.
Mhm.
And so they need someone to be able to tell them, this is something you might want to look at,
Mhm.
or you're not looking at this.
Right.
And so that's usually when I get a phone call from an owner, is when they need someone to talk to about these things, because a lot of times they can't talk to their teams, right? They don't want
Right.
to let them see them sweat. So
Right.
where do they go? And to someone that understands their business.
Right.
So that's when people call me. But you know what? We've got people that need workshops. They need some emerging leader training. They need executive coaching. So
Mhm.
it's been varying depending on the need. And I think the more people hear about what we can provide, it'll continue to evolve.
Yeah, I think, just like you were saying, like an unbiased opinion. They need somebody to confide in, especially when you're up at the very top. And, I always say you're always going to scale up, scale down. There's always going to be transitions in businesses. There's going to be different headwinds, different, I would say economic challenges that come up. And that's when you really need to think critically about who do you have on your team, and who can you look outside that's going to have your best interest, because at the end of the day you don't have to have all the answers. You're not
Yeah.
expected to know everything. You need to surround yourself around other people as you continue to evolve as a leader, especially in the C-suite, that those blind spots are essentially what hinder everybody else. It's a huge ripple effect that happens. And there's awesome solutions like what Here2Elevate is offering, that is out there, that you guys have people's backs and you want them to be set up for success, and their teams to be set up for success. Whether you're an owner, regional manager, Doesn't really matter what title or what seat you're sitting in. Everybody plays a critical role. But I know we could talk forever, Suzanne, about all of this. I can see the passion radiating from you and your team. And again, I'm so grateful that you created space for us. And if you have not been following Here2Elevate and Suzanne Hopson, it will be posted, once this goes live. I encourage you guys to follow what they're doing. They're always coming out with some amazing things and products and services. So you're not going to want to miss out. And Suzanne, thank you again for creating space and sharing time with us today. I'm so glad we had you on the show.
Yes, Kelsi, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it and enjoyed it. And I had a really great cup of coffee. So it was good.
You had my a few drinks for me, which I appreciate.
It's awesome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad. Thanks again for listening and sharing your time with us on the show. I hope you enjoyed listening and learning from various leaders our industry is so fortunate to have inside the real estate space. If you're a high-level leader within the diverse real estate ecosystem and looking to land your next venture and would like to share your story from your own voice and perspective, or if you're a leading real estate organization and want to share through your own voice and narrative your company culture, values, and ways you recruit and retain top talent, let's get connected. Then be sure to check out our firm also at Cory Executive Recruiting and Leaders on Deck via CoryExecutive.com. Our mission is to continue to be trailblazers within the recruitment space and bring meaningful leaders to the forefront to drive growth and empower people. If you've enjoyed this session, please like, comment, and subscribe to support us. And thank you so much to our partners at Multifamily Media Network. We couldn't be more grateful for our collaboration. Stay tuned and join us on our journey.